Hey guys, how's it going? We're Demir and Carey Bentley. We are productivity coaches and lifestyle design coaches. What does that even mean?
So what Demir and I do is we show high achievers and busy professionals how to bring sanity back into their workday. Who could use some sanity, right?
Yeah, and we work with the top people in this country. We're recognized as some of the best coaches in this by national media outlets like Bloomberg and CNBC and Forbes. We're also members of the Forbes Coaching Council. We like to get into the lives of people who are super high achievers, and our mission is to bring sanity back in their life. Because the thing that we find with high achievers, and you see it again and again and again, is they've created success in their life, but at the expense of so much of the other good stuff in life.
Exactly, and that describes our life to a T about 8 years ago. So we're going to share all about our story in a moment as sort of an illustration of what we're teaching.
Yeah, because we were literally the poster children for that overwhelmed, chaotic life.
Exactly. So this masterclass is designed to get you started on that path. We're going to be talking about lifestyle design, which is a concept you may or may not have heard of before, and we're going to share a step-by-step process you can follow to get started.
Yeah, guys, if you really want to just boil it down, what we're going to show you here is that instead of this binary choice between being successful and miserable and unhealthy and unsuccessful and happy, we're going to show you a third path where you can have it all. You can have the success, you can have the health, you can have the family, and you can have the personal satisfaction. So that's what we're doing in this masterclass.
All right, let's get started.
So first, let's just make sure that you're in the right place here because we don't want to waste your time. You're the right person to be watching this masterclass if you're the kind of person who's a real overachiever, the kind of person who's always gotten the good grades, who's always pushed yourself, but maybe you push yourself too hard.
You always are the person to put yourself in the gap whenever there's a problem. You kind of feel like you're running on empty at this point because you are the go-to person for everything.
You're the kind of person who has always had that determination and grit and that ambition wanting to create something. You've probably already created tremendous results in your life, but it's come at a tremendous cost as well. Maybe that cost is in your family or in your hobbies or the personal time or even in your health.
So if you're that kind of person who's maybe gotten big results in their life, but at the cost of their sanity, then you are definitely in the right place.
Guys, let's bring something out of the shadows here and talk about it really quick at the top here. This sick work culture that we're all living in right now.
Yes, this hustle culture that has permeated us from the time we were born, practically.
Yeah, I mean, it basically says more or less, the number one solution to your success is work harder, work more, get up earlier, stay later.
And we all say, oh, we know we should be working smarter, not harder, but our culture is telling us something very different, which that the answer is always just to work harder.
Yeah, maybe your competition is getting 8 hours of sleep. That means you should just get 4 hours of sleep. Maybe they're spending time with their kids. You shouldn't spend time with your kids at all. It's this self-punishment, and it fits so well, doesn't it, into our Protestant work ethic.
Exactly.
This idea that work has to be miserable and grueling, and that the satisfaction is that you got through it.
And here's the problem with it. This is why we're bringing it up. It's because it's an unsustainable lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have a bunch of credit cards and you're just borrowing against all the credit cards and you're maxed out on all of them. But instead of borrowing against money, you're borrowing against your personal health, your happiness, your family, all these other things, and you are completely maxed out.
Yeah, and what's the sort of like payoff? We all think, yeah, but it's going to be better next year, right? Oh, well, yeah, but it's terrible this year, and my health is declining this year, and I'm not spending time with my family, and I'm not loving my life, but oh man, it will be better next year, or maybe when I retire. Oh, it won't be so great when I retire. And the problem is, that's not how it turns out.
No, definitely not. What it creates is a fast path to the road to burnout.
Yeah, what you're doing every day when you're borrowing from that credit card is you're not actually getting yourself out of debt. You're getting deeper into debt, and you're engineering a life that is fundamentally at step one, unsustainable.
But don't worry, guys. What we're going to be talking about in this training is how you can get out of that sort of lifestyle and start down the path of creating one that's actually well balanced.
Yeah, guys, believe it or not, you can create a life that you love today, and then you can improve it and love it more next week and love it even more next month. And that's what we're here to communicate. There's a third path, and that path is called lifestyle design.
We were literally the embodiment of hustle culture back in the day, and we're going to share our story now just so that you guys can get a sense of our journey and what we've been through. So I come from a more corporate, typical career path culture. I manage billion-dollar brands for CPG companies. Demir came from sort of a Wall Street background. He worked in finance and real estate.
Guilty.
And then was the CEO of his own tech company.
Yeah, we were so deep in debt, if that's how you want to call it, right? If life was like a Rubik's Cube, we had solved the career side, but only at the expense of every other side of the Rubik's Cube.
But what's so interesting about our story is that almost at exactly the same time, we both received scary health diagnoses from our doctors.
Yeah, within 2 weeks of each other, we got diagnoses that were basically like, you have to change something or you could literally die or face some gruesome health consequences.
And this was a consequence, a direct consequence of us working super long hours, 80-hour weeks, and sacrificing in every other area of our life.
For us, it was just like hitting a brick wall. I mean, it was so traumatic. When you think about overachievers, and you could probably relate to this, your identity is connected to your success. And so you're just pushing and you're thinking, yeah, next year's going to be better. And you're telling yourself you're okay. And maybe even your mind is overpowering your body. So your body's saying, no, this is not okay. Or your relationships, you're getting signals from the world, this is not okay. But your mind is powering through it. And so when we got this diagnosis, within weeks of each other, mind you, that said, you have to stop. I mean, it was like, literally, what are we going to do? We had no answers. We went home, and I'll never forget, we went home and literally sat on the couch and cried and asked ourselves, like, well, is this it? Because in our mind, since there's only two paths, right, to be a miserable rich person or a happy, fool, poor person, then, we were literally like, is this banishing us from the life that we want to live, from creating results? I mean, we were like holding on with our fingernails. We were not happy with our marriage. We were not happy with our life. I was not happy being 80 pounds overweight and our bodies were giving out. But we were right there. I call it one tick from the bottom, just holding on by our fingernails. So when we got this diagnosis, it basically was the final straw that broke the camel's back.
But this health diagnosis was actually one of the best things that ever happened to us because it allowed us to just hit bottom. And when we hit bottom, it allowed us to kind of get angry a little bit. We're very stubborn people. And so we summoned this sort of like righteous anger at our whole situation.
Yeah, like screw this. This is outrageous. Like, we cannot be working this hard and not getting the cash and prizes and not creating the life that we love. So we had this moment where we looked at each other and basically said, screw this.
And so we started doing what we do best as researchers. We're both trained researchers as well. We researched the crap out of this. So we read every book we could on productivity, on lifestyle design, on how to create a better workflow, because we were convinced there must be better ways that we could work just as much, but in way shorter hours per week. So what happened next was amazing. And so there's actually a really cool story about what Demir did next. I want him to share that. Do you mind?
No, I love it. I love this story. And so you might have actually heard this story before because I've gotten a little quasi-famous for having done this. I basically outsourced my entire Wall Street job. And let me tell you how I did it. So it was little by little. Remember, I would never normally do this, right? Because there's high risk, right? Like liability. But what happened was because I was sick, because I had a diagnosis that said, you need to stop working like this right now. And so at that moment, because we were researching it, I had read the 4-Hour Workweek. I was a real skeptic. I mean, working 80 hours a week, to hear somebody say you can work 4 hours a week, I was like, BS, there's no way. But I was desperate. Let's be honest. He talks about this idea of the new rich, which is people who aren't measuring success necessarily just in money, but they're thinking about money as a form of freedom. So there's money freedom, there's lifestyle freedom, there's time freedom. And he also talked about this idea of like automating your life, automating your work. And I was like, dude, what is this about?
What is that?
And so, I threw a Hail Mary pass because it was either quit my job or figure out how to work less. And so I hired a PhD in India to take on part of my job. And within 2 weeks, this guy wasn't just doing it well, he was like doing it better than I was doing it. I was like, literally, let me see how far this can go. So I went from 80 hours a week down to 50 hours a week because of this guy. I hired another PhD down to 30 hours a week. I hired another PhD. Within 2 months, no joke, I had gone from working 80 hours a week to 8 hours a month. At first I was panicked because I had so little work to do. I still had to sit in my desk that I was literally like pretending, like moving papers, trying to pretend that I was actually doing work. But then I started opening up new business opportunities for my company that was really impressing my boss. I started going on CNBC, Fox Business News, Bloomberg, doing TV appearances. And lo and behold, just like that movie Office Space, I got promoted. I outsourced my entire job. I stopped doing any work. I started doing value-added work and I got promoted. It was literally like the movie Office Space. We call it our Office Space moment. Here's the funny thing. Putting ourselves at the center of our life, saying that our life had to make sense, our health had to be at the forefront. Our assumption that was when we did that, everything else would fall apart. That when we started taking more hours for ourselves, for our life, for our health, everything would fall apart. And it was exactly the opposite.
Right.
Deciding that hustle culture wasn't scalable and that we couldn't throw ourselves into the gap anymore. Once we threw that away, that false belief, it was the beginning of success. It wasn't the end of it.
We never forgot the core lesson of lifestyle design, which is that you are not scalable as an individual. You need the best systems, the best technologies, the best ways of working in order to create those systems that can scale you.
Absolutely, guys. The second you reject this paradigm of I'm scalable, which you're clearly not, there's only one inevitable conclusion, which is that you have to have systems and technology and people getting work done for you. And when you do, that is infinitely scalable.
And more than anything, it's about putting yourself first, putting your personal happiness first, designing a life that works for you, and then structuring everything else around that. Because the person who truly loves their life is always going to be the person who's miserable or just kind of barely hanging on, right? Because
Amen.
that person is going to be on the road to burnout, and the other person who's happy with their life can sustain that kind of lifestyle forever. So we saw our lifestyle design challenge kind of like solving a Rubik's Cube, and we talked about this a little bit before as well.
Yeah.
We thought we were winning when we were going after the career side, right? That's the road to success. But it turns out that was only solving one side of the Rubik's Cube.
People think that if they solve that side, that's the beginning of solving the other sides.
Right.
And it's absolutely not true. In fact, you need to solve every single side at once. That's the only way to really create a life that you really love. Guys, sitting there on that couch that night, crying with each other, getting that health diagnosis, we made a vow to crack this code. And when we finally did outsource our jobs, and we realized that systems are the answer, actually working smarter, not harder, and designing a life where you're at the center, man, that was the beginning. We were hooked. We dove in head first to figure out what is this lifestyle design stuff.
And fast forward today, literally, I know it sounds so cheesy to say it like this, but sometimes we have to pinch ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we have such a high level of lifestyle design, way more than I ever thought we would. I mean, if a psychic had read our palms even 3 years ago and told us how we were living today, I would have been like, no way, this lady's cuckoo. So for the past 2 years, we've been traveling around the world. We've been to 19 countries as of today. At the same time, we've grown a high six-figure business. Close to 7 figures at this point.
Yep. All remote while traveling around the world. I mean, right now we're in Colombia, which is absolutely gorgeous, and we're here in the winter when everybody else is freezing their tuchus off.
I think one of the most important things that's happened to us is that both of our diseases are now in full remission.
Yeah.
So my ulcerative colitis, I haven't had a single symptom in over 2.5 years. Demir has lost 80 pounds of weight.
I'm actually biologically younger than I was before.
It's
No
insane.
symptoms, less weight, feeling like a kid again.
We have things like a personal chef, a personal trainer, a personal salsa instructor, a personal Pilates. It's just...
It makes me feel bad saying it, but
Me too. I sound like kind of like a douche saying it.
The truth is it all supports a really important vision, and it's a vision that we have for our life, and it's the vision that we have for our clients as well, and it's so simple. We want our clients to be the LeBron James of their life. We want them to be able to go on the court, slam it on the court, be the best that they can be, and then when they come home, everything else is taken care of.
Yeah.
We want them to be pro athletes in their life, and that's how we see our life too. We want to put every single ounce of our energy propelling our mission forward, and then when we're home and we're back in our life, we want to be resting, relaxing, refilling the well.
And listen, here's what it all kind of boiled down to for us, was that, wow, like this new rich stuff is actually real. You know, we could have this sort of lifestyle, even though it seemed like the furthest thing from reality back in the day.
Yeah, that whole narrative, like you just have to wait till you're 60 or 65 to retire, that's not true. And we were so bought into that. So it is our mission today. And we've taken hundreds of clients through this process of breaking them out of that binary lifestyle where they're inevitably going to lose. Because even if they win with money, they're going to kill their health. Even if they win with their career, they're going to kill their marriage. There's an alternative paradigm. And our focus is bringing the tools and techniques and systems to people's lives to show them that they can create a life that they love right now, today.
Yeah, and before you say, well, that's just you guys. I mean, Demir and Carey, you're an exception. You know, I want to know how to create this for myself. It's like, well, guess what? We have literally coached over 400 clients in this sort of process to help them design their own lifestyle that really works for them. It doesn't have to look like ours. It doesn't have to look like traveling around the world by any means. That's not right for everybody. But it all starts from letting go. It starts from hitting bottom, as it were, and sort of recognizing that the way I'm leading my life right now is not working for me.
We're challenging you to stop going in that binary path. I'm either going to be rich and successful and miserable, or I'm going to be poor and happy. Break the X and Y axis and go down the Z axis. Re-engineer a lifestyle that you love today. Solve the Rubik's Cube on every single side.
Next, we're going to share 6 of our key aha moments that we took away from our journey, now kind of looking back in hindsight. And we want to share these with you so that you can just have these aha moments now.
Guys, think about it as like 10 years of mistakes accelerated down into all the things you need to know so you don't have to make those mistakes.
So true. So the first aha moment is that our hard work ethic that we had was the thing that was literally killing us.
Yeah, here's what's so sad in retrospect is we wore that 80 hours a week like a badge of pride. Like we were so proud that we worked that hard. And in retrospect, that's exactly what was holding us back.
Absolutely, because Richard Branson and any hero that you have in your life, believe me, they are not killing themselves with 80 hours a week. They've got people, they've got systems, they've got processes that all get that work off their plate so that they can lead that well-balanced life.
And like we said before, the second you acknowledge that you can't keep stuffing yourself into the gap, it becomes so clear that you have to create systems so that you can actually magnify your impact without trying to magnify your hours.
Exactly. So that was the first aha moment we had, was like, wow, this hard work ethic that we pride ourselves on is actually the thing that's killing us. The second aha moment we had was that money wasn't the end game. Freedom actually was the end game.
Yeah.
Because what we were trying to buy with the money and the high career and the big job was freedom.
Here's what's so strange. We have friends who earn high 8 figures. I mean, these people are rich and they're jealous of our lifestyle. They literally say, Demir, Carey, if I could just go away with my wife and not have to deal with a team of 200 people and have to go into the office every day, and I can't even take as much vacation. They're literally looking at us and saying, how is it that you make a fraction of what I make and I want your lifestyle? And that's
Right.
because, guys, nobody wants money. We want what we think money can buy, which is freedom and optionality.
So that was the second aha moment, that money wasn't actually the end game for us, it was freedom. The third aha moment was that it wasn't necessarily a technology solution.
Yeah, here's the thing. In our mind, we kept pushing the solution away from ourselves because we sort of thought our life is complicated, so the solution has to be really
Yes.
complicated. Man, I must need to be like a programmer and make all these like Neo in the Matrix, and I have to make all these programs that automate my life. No.
Right, exactly. We thought we needed some kind of advanced technological skill, or that the answer lay in some kind of app, right? But what the truth is, like literally pointing and clicking and coming up with simple solutions was what got us to where we are today.
Yeah, when I outsourced my entire job, the way that I hired those 3 PhDs was literally with a keyboard and a mouse going to a website and going click, 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 typed in a job listing, posted the job listing, everything else was email. I mean, literally, I didn't have to learn one new skill.
So that was the third key aha moment, was that it wasn't about the technology. The fourth aha moment we had was about time. Now, I personally thought, man, this must take so much time. This must be the next 10 years of my life journey.
Yeah, like again, my life is so complicated, I'm so busy. Man, to automate my life and my business, it's gonna take a year, 5 years, 10 years. And that mentality was holding us back so much because
Yes.
the truth is, it doesn't take any time at all. This can happen so rapidly. And in our program, we take people through 60 days, a complete transformation where from the beginning to the end, they can't even recognize the time they have, the freedom they have, the systems that they've built, the productivity they're getting. So guys, it does not take a lot of time.
Exactly. So that was the fourth aha moment, was that, hey, we're making up excuses in our head for why it should take so much time instead of just getting right down to it. The fifth aha moment we had was that, wow, we are just so prideful that we weren't willing to follow in anybody else's footsteps.
Oh my gosh.
We were like, we have to create everything from scratch and build everything brick by brick.
It's so, so true. And it's really humbling looking back because I wouldn't say that we felt prideful, but inside of our assumption was just built into this idea that we could do it better or that somebody else's solution wasn't going to work for us. And here's the thing, today, fast forward, we're like collectors of these patterns. So go back to the Rubik's Cube analogy for a second. Have you ever seen those people solve a Rubik's Cube in like 20 seconds? It's like on the internet. It's literally like they're just flying through it. They're not actually solving it. I mean, I hate to spoil this for you. They're actually using patterns. That's how they solve it that fast,
Yeah.
is they've memorized patterns and they use those patterns and they recognize those patterns in order to solve it quicker. And that's basically what we do with people's productivity and their lifestyle design. The truth is that when you look at massively successful people who are also enjoying their life, 90% of how they operate looks very similar, very familiar. The principles, the
Exactly.
technologies. And so we've gathered this, we call these sort of patterns, we call them life hacks. Whether it's how you prepare your meals, how you've lost weight and you maintain your health, how you delegate, how you create systems in your life, we call those life hacks. And so those life hacks are like those patterns that help you accelerate the way that you solve your life hacking problem.
So that was the fifth key takeaway, was that we were just too prideful to go out there and find someone else's templates and just plug them into our life. And the sixth key takeaway that we took away from this whole journey was that hitting bottom was actually one of the best things that happened to us. It wasn't bad, it wasn't failure, it was actually the starting point where we built our entire life.
Yeah, the truth is, guys, hitting bottom was a blessing. I look back and I thank my body for breaking down. And I thank that doctor. I wish I could say that we would have had this breakthrough by ourselves, but we wouldn't.
Totally not.
We wouldn't have stopped. We would still be grinding away in New York City, being miserable. We wouldn't have gotten off that path unless we were forced to get off that path, because overachievers can be so prideful. But guys, hitting bottom can be a blessing.
Yeah, and so if we would say one thing to you would be, hey, accelerate that road to hitting the bottom now.
That's so true.
I mean, figure out, well, you don't have to have a health crisis like we did to hit bottom. You can decide right now, today, not tomorrow, that enough is enough and that you're not going to stand for the way you've been living.
Yeah, and look forward to all the good things you get at the bottom. We think, oh man, that means I'm a failure. No, actually, it means that you realize that you need something better and you need better coaching and better systems. You know, people think, oh man, you know, everybody's going to hate me. No, nobody's going to hate you. It's authentic to hit bottom. And here's the biggest point about hitting bottom is once you hit bottom, you get that righteous anger,
Yes.
that screw this energy and when you use that energy right, you can direct it towards like, I'm going to build something better.
We're going to leave you with a step-by-step formula, a 4-step process that you can start working and start thinking about to get you on the right path here. The number one tool you're going to need is your brain, right? It's a lot of mindsets work, it's a lot of brain work, and so this 4-step process is going to get you started out right.
Absolutely. So let's go through those 4 steps one by one. And guys, feel free to write this down, put it in front of yourself. This is going to be what you need to get yourself to phase 1.
Step number 1 is to accept that you've been borrowing against your health and your relationships and your happiness, kind of like borrowing with a credit card.
Spending 15 hours a week in meetings and then having to do your real work in evenings and weekends, not sustainable.
No. Seeing your health degenerate year after year after year, that is a recipe for disaster.
Not spending time on your relationships, either with your husband or wife or with your kids, not sustainable.
Draining the best years of your life, just working in an office and not going on vacation, not taking the rest that you need. You're literally draining your life force away.
Guys, step number 1 in this process is just looking at life and saying, no, this isn't going to get better. It's not going to resolve itself. The way that I've designed my life is not working. It's unworkable.
Step number 2 is to hasten yourself to the bottom.
Yeah.
So what do we mean by this? Because when you hit bottom, that's the point where you can really get started, because you're not willing to let yourself continue holding on, right? Like one tick from the bottom like we did.
Yeah, guys, when you hit bottom, that's when you finally allow somebody to help you, when you seek out help. When you hit bottom, you find a community of people who are doing it right, who are actually solving this problem. When you hit bottom, you actually look for the best solutions.
So here are a couple questions to help you sort of think about this step. The first question is, if you extended your life 10 years into the future exactly the way it's going right now, would you be satisfied with that?
And I would add on to that, for us in our situation, I would even say, would you still be alive? I mean, for us, if we had continued going down that path, it's possible that one of us would have been dead.
Exactly. And so if the answer to that question is like, no, I am not happy with what that picture looks like, then the next question is, how much longer are you willing to go on like this?
How much longer are you willing to live like this? How much longer are you willing to put your spouse through this? How much longer are you willing to delay the true potential, what you really have to unleash on this world?
So that's step number 2. Hasten yourself to the bottom as fast as possible. Step number 3 is to commit that starting tomorrow, you're going to design a life with yourself at the center.
Guys, you're solving your life like you're solving a Rubik's Cube, like a 3-dimensional puzzle. And you're not compromising anything in order to make anything else work. You're actually asking yourself, how does it all get to work?
So stop playing the rich person game and start asking yourself how to play the new rich game. How do I get everything I want, the money and the security and the freedom now, rather than pushing it 10 years into the future? Also, stop asking, what do I want to be? And start asking yourself, what do I want my life to be like?
Oh my God, that is so true. Say that one more time, please.
Stop asking, what do I want to be? And start asking, what do I want my life to be and feel like?
Guys, it really is true. Once you decide to look at your life from all sides, you really become like Neo in the Matrix, where when he goes back into the Matrix, he's able to actually manipulate it, change the fabric of reality. You can actually change the fabric of your reality.
So that's step number 3, making that commitment to yourself to start redesigning your life. Step number 4 is to find and run templated patterns that are going to help you solve your own Rubik's Cube for yourself.
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road. Okay, so it's not just about wishing that it happens, it's actually about operating in the most powerful possible way you can, not just at work, but at home, in your personal life. And that's where productivity comes in. Because at the end of the day, we can have these big visions for our life, and that is so important, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't minimize that. You need to have a big vision for your life. But where we lay the bricks to build that castle is every day that we can step into our life and be the Babe Ruth of our life. Just knock it out of the park. That person is going to win.
Please, for goodness sake, do not be one of those people, like we kind of did, who just started stabbing around in the dark, just trying to see what would work. There are templates available to you right now. You do not need to guesswork with all of this stuff.
Yeah, best practices that you can just literally adopt in your life, modify a little, and they are going to work.
Yeah, because even when you think that you see someone doing something alone, we always celebrate people like athletes, swimmers, people like that who are up there winning the gold medals. Secretly, they have an entire team of support and coaches around them.
Yeah.
They never do anything alone.
Yeah, and they're getting the best information, and they're standing on the shoulders of every single athlete and coach and trainer before them. So they're not reinventing the wheel.
And what's funny about this whole process is you're probably thinking right now, starting this journey, that, wow, I'm going to really have to take a step back. I'm going to be sacrificing some part of my success in order to redesign my life. And what's funny is that actually becomes the opposite. This actually becomes the jet fuel that's actually going to propel your success further.
Yeah, that's our analogy, right? I mean, you're like a rocket, right? You were born like a rocket. We didn't make you like that, and in some ways, you didn't make yourself like that. People who are high achievers are just born with that need to succeed, that need to create a vision, create a mission, that need to do big things in life. You're already built like that. But in a lot of ways, you're like a rocket putting diesel fuel in, right? And so you're not achieving that kind of performance that you really can. You're not able to reach the moon. But what would happen if you took that rocket and you put in the best practices, the best productivity, the best techniques, the best ways of living your life? What happens is those people shoot to the moon like they were meant to.
And the secret weapon to all of this is having a sustainable lifestyle that you love.
Oh, so true.
Yeah, because it means that you could do it forever. You've just lengthened your runway significantly.
Yeah, guys, we said it before. The person who loves their life is always going to beat the person. They're going to outcompete, outperform the person who's just barely hanging on. Thinking, can I do this for another year? Or is this going to be the year when I finally explode, right? And the person who's loving their life is like, I could do this till I'm 90.
Now, I know we spend a lot of time telling you about our personal journey, but we also want to share some examples of some of our clients because we want to get you that perspective of people other than ourselves.
Yeah, we're just going to talk about 3 examples that we really love to share. But honestly, if you go on our website, you're just going to see person after person after person who's made this transformation, who's broken out of their box and realized, oh my God, I was a rocket using diesel instead of jet fuel.
So the first person we want to talk about is Jessa, owner of her own business. She's the mom of 2. She was living that sort of quintessential New York lifestyle, right? That Demir and I used to live that, so we know that very well. Where she wasn't spending time with her kids, she wasn't spending enough time with her husband. She was busy all day long, but she wasn't making the forward momentum and the forward progress on her big goals. So when we started working with Jessa, those were the key areas we honed in on. How do we get her business running more efficiently? How do we create systems so that she can start making a huge impact rather than just a tiny impact? So fast forward today, and what Jessa has done is truly incredible. She's actually moved her entire family from Brooklyn to St. Lucia.
I love it.
So they now live full-time in the Caribbean.
Yep. They work their entire business remotely. And here's the funny part. Moving from Brooklyn to St. Lucia actually saved them money. And with that money and time that they had, they finally had enough slack in the rope to make their business work. So the funny thing was their life in New York was like this knot, just so tightly wound that they didn't have enough slack to make anything work, to make the personal life work or to make the work life work. And the second they stepped away from that and actually created a change of venue, reduced their cost of living, gave themselves more time, lo and behold, the business took off. Less than a year and a half later, they're in a place where they're traveling the world now, going to Portugal. Their business is at a level they never imagined. And so again, it doesn't take the kind of time that you think it does. This was not a 10-year journey. This is literally a year and a half of a full lifestyle transformation.
Another client who we just love so much is Margaret. And Margaret is a partner at a law firm. As you can imagine, her plate was incredibly full. She was a super busy woman. I mean, so busy, in fact, that she was worried that she didn't even have enough time to get our help.
Her vision for her life wasn't traveling the world. She loved her job. She loved where she was at. She loved her community. She loved volunteering. She was just looking at herself and saying, somehow, we don't have any time. right? Like,
Right.
how can we not spend enough time with each other? How can we not work out together? Like, her vision wasn't that big. She just wanted to spend more time with her husband, and she was getting older, and she just said, I need to be working out and developing my body so that when I retire, I don't just like collapse. Like, I'm actually going to be able to be healthy.
Exactly. And so that's what we worked with Margaret on. We worked on those mindset issues she was having around, it's everybody else's fault but my own. And then also those more structural, systematic issues about how she could actually be more powerful in her workday and get that time back in her schedule.
We worked on helping her train other people so that she could finally delegate to people and actually know that that work was going to get done in the right way.
So fast forward to today, and we actually just got this message from her. It was so rewarding to get this. It turns out all of her fellow partners elected her the chairman and president of her entire firm. And so not only has she already been getting all that time back, she's working out, she's spending more time with her husband, but like we said before, she's also achieving more career success.
And guys, I know it sounds so hard to believe, but we see it time and time again. When you realize you're not sustainable and you put yourself at the center of your life and then create systems that magnify you, it is the beginning of massive success. You're not giving up your success in order to be happy. Margaret literally put her happiness first, and success was literally a result of it.
So another client story we love to share is Rick.
Yeah, I love Rick's story.
I love Rick. So Rick is a small business owner. He had two fully built companies that he was running. But the thing about him is he was in an industry where he saw a bunch of new opportunities, new opportunities he wanted to get into. But because he was stuck in his existing two businesses, he was literally seeing those huge opportunities just pass him by.
Yeah, like millions of dollars in potential revenue that he knew he could get, he wasn't able to go grab because he was trapped in his success, trapped in his current businesses. So when we started working with Rick, that's exactly what we started working on, showing him the best tools and techniques to literally automate, outsource, delegate, systematize his current businesses so that he could liberate enough time to go over and create these new ones. And boy, the results that Rick got, not just professionally, but personally, were astounding.
So personally, what he got back was a significant amount of time. He started actually taking vacations again. He started doing one of his favorite activities in the world, which was turkey hunting.
Turkey hunting,
He's really a big fan of turkey hunting.
Yeah, I mean, so putting it all together, literally within 8 months of taking our program, he was able to go from a place where he was trapped in two businesses to literally own 4 businesses, 2 of them were new ones, and had enough time to develop a relationship which he hadn't been able to do before, and do the turkey hunting and the travel. Again, simply by telling himself, okay, I'm hitting bottom, I'm going to find the best tools and techniques, I'm going to level up my productivity and my systems, and I'm going to create a life that I really, really love.
All right, so hopefully those examples sort of shed some light on what's possible out there for you. I hope you're thinking really hard about what it is that you're going to create, and we want to hear that from you. So just an email, reply to whatever email you got with this training, and let us know, what is it that you're going to be taking away from this training?
Guys, if you take nothing away from this training, just take this away. It is not a choice between being happy and being poor and unsuccessful, or being successful and being miserable and unhealthy. That is a false choice. Please take that away from this. And please take away that there are tools and there are patterns and there are templates to help you solve that Rubik's Cube in a way where you're actually getting all of the sides solved.
And speaking of those templates, we're going to have a series of trainings that you're going to get completely free access to, where we're going to start sharing some of our best life hacks.
Guys, thanks so much for taking your time today. We know your time is super precious. Dive into the videos and the trainings that are on the website, and we hope to be talking to you soon.